What if the person you just dismissed as nobody important turned out to be the one who signs your paycheck? How quickly would your world collapse if you discovered the nobody you treated with contempt was actually the owner of everything around you? One hotel employee is about to find out the hard way. Marcus Reynolds, 52, stood at the gleaming marble counter of the Grandeur Hotel, one of the crown jewels in his $2 billion hospitality empire. This wasn't just any luxury accommodation. This was his creation, his vision brought to life, where a single night's stay cost more than some people's monthly mortgage payments. The chandelier above cast brilliant light across the lobby, illuminating the plush furnishings and museum-quality artwork that Marcus had personally selected. And yet, as he stood there waiting to be acknowledged, Marcus Reynolds might as well have been invisible. This wasn't a random visit. Over the past 3 months, Marcus had received a concerning pattern of complaints about this specific location. Guests being treated differently based on appearance, mysterious system errors affecting certain bookings, and staff with attitudes that had no place in a 5-star establishment. He could have handled it the conventional way, called the general manager, ordered an audit, dispatched the corporate team. But Marcus believed in seeing problems firsthand. So here he was, dressed in jeans and a simple button-down shirt, no designer watch, no chauffeur, no entourage, just another guest checking in for the night. And that's when he witnessed his company's exceptional service in action. The front desk was staffed by a young woman named Ashley, early 20s, with highlighted hair and acrylic nails that clacked against her phone as she scrolled through social media. Her entire demeanor screamed, "I'd rather be anywhere but here." Marcus waited patiently, then cleared his throat. Nothing. He tapped the counter gently. Still nothing. "Excuse me?" Ashley released an exaggerated sigh, the kind reserved for telemarketers who call during dinner, and finally dragged her gaze upward, blinking as if Marcus had materialized out of thin air. Yeah, that was it. Not, "Welcome to the Grandeur Hotel." Not, "How may I assist you today?" Just, "Yeah," delivered with the enthusiasm of a teenager being asked to take out the trash. Marcus maintained his composure. "I have a reservation, Marcus Reynolds." Ashley barely concealed a smirk as she turned to her computer, typing with the speed and enthusiasm of a sloth on tranquilizers. Nope, don't see it." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You're sure about that?" "Pretty sure," she replied, already returning her attention to her phone, as if that concluded their interaction. And in that moment, Marcus knew this wasn't a technical glitch or an honest mistake. This was deliberate. She had taken one look at him, his casual clothes, his brown skin, his lack of obvious wealth indicators, and decided he wasn't worth her time. "Could you check again, please?" Marcus kept his voice neutral, professional. Ashley rolled her eyes but reluctantly returned to the keyboard, tapping half-heartedly. "Nope. Still nothing. Sorry." Her tone made it clear she wasn't sorry at all, just annoyed. Marcus calmly pulled out his phone and opened his email. "I have my confirmation right here," he said, holding up the screen. Ashley barely glanced at it. "Yeah, well, the system doesn't lie." "Neither does my email," Marcus replied evenly. Another dramatic sigh. "Look, sir, maybe you made a mistake. It happens. Maybe you booked for a different location. Happens all the time." Marcus tilted his head slightly. "You're suggesting I'm lost?" Ashley gave him that particular smile, the one people use when they think they're dealing with someone who can't quite grasp simple concepts. "I'm saying it's an easy mistake to make." Marcus took a controlled breath. "And if I wasn't lost? If my reservation was actually here all along?" She shrugged dismissively. "Then I guess the system glitched." The thing was, Marcus knew this system intimately. He had approved its development, tested its reliability, implemented it across 27 hotels nationwide. It didn't glitch. People did. And something about Ashley's refusal to make eye contact, her eagerness to dismiss him, the way she seemed determined to make him someone else's problem. He'd seen this pattern before. This wasn't about technology. This was about him. In the span of 5 seconds, she had decided he didn't belong in this luxury space. Marcus had experienced this countless times throughout his career. The subtle ways customer service shifted depending on who was being served. Usually he let these moments slide. Choose your battles, right? But today was different. Today, this was happening in his hotel. Marcus pulled out his second phone, the one with executive access to the entire system. He entered his credentials and immediately located his reservation. Not only was it there in the main database, but when he checked the activity log, he discovered something illuminating. Reservation manually deleted. Deleted by Ashley Parker, front desk associate. Gotcha. Marcus glanced at her name tag, suppressing a smile. Tell me something, Ashley. She responded, already back to scrolling through her phone. What happens when you delete a reservation? She barely looked up. Oh, it just removes it from the system. No big deal. And who has the ability to do that? Ashley shrugged. Only front desk staff, obviously. Like me. Like you, Marcus repeated, nodding. He tapped his screen one final time, pulled up the activity log, and turned the phone toward her. Like this? Her eyes flickered to the screen, and for the first time that evening she actually looked concerned. Because there it was, her name, timestamp, and the action. Reservation deleted manually. Ashley swallowed hard, her complexion suddenly paler. Marcus leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. So, tell me, Ashley, why the hell did you delete my reservation? Her mouth opened and closed, but no words emerged. For the first time since he'd approached the desk, she was completely speechless. Marcus smiled thinly. Oh, this is going to be one interesting night. Marcus had witnessed plenty of unprofessional behavior throughout his career. But this was truly next level. He stood there, watching Ashley try to pretend she wasn't absolutely panicking, and honestly, he almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But no. She had created this situation herself, and now she would face the consequences. She kept staring at the screen, her fingers twitching as if desperately searching for an undo button that didn't exist for this particular mistake. I didn't, she stammered, but Marcus cut her off with a raised hand. Don't even try it, Ashley. The way she flinched was almost satisfying. Save it. She closed her mouth so quickly he nearly laughed. Marcus took a step back, inhaled deeply, and composed himself. He wanted to call her out loudly enough for everyone in the elegant lobby to hear, but that wouldn't solve the deeper issues. This required strategy. Instead, he leaned forward against the counter and smiled. Here's what's going to happen, Ashley. She gulped visibly. You're going to find me a room. Right now. She hesitated briefly, but when he maintained unwavering eye contact, she scrambled to type, her fingers trembling against the keyboard. Okay, she muttered. Speak up. I found a room. Of course you did. Her confidence had evaporated completely. She grabbed a key card and slid it across the counter, still avoiding eye contact. Here you go, sir. Marcus didn't touch it. Which room? 1427. Marcus sighed. The worst room in the entire building. Room 1427 was positioned directly next to the elevator machinery, adjacent to the maintenance closet, with a spectacular view of the dumpsters behind the property. The worst room in the building, huh? Marcus said flatly. Ashley froze, her expression confirming his suspicion. Ashley, he said, tilting his head slightly. Do I look stupid to you? Her face contorted. No, Then why the hell are you trying to play me like I don't know exactly what you just did? Dead silence fell across the lobby. Other guests had begun noticing the tension. A couple on the nearby sofas glanced over while pretending they weren't eavesdropping, and a bellhop in the corner suddenly became intensely interested in adjusting his uniform. Marcus slowly picked up the keycard. Thanks, Ashley. With that, he turned and headed toward the elevators. But this encounter was far from over. Not even close. The moment Marcus entered his room, which was indeed as terrible as he'd expected, with the constant mechanical drone of the elevator shaft vibrating through the walls, he pulled out his laptop. Time to investigate. This was his hotel, his legacy, and someone had the audacity to treat him as if he were beneath notice. This wasn't just about one bad employee, it suggested a systemic problem. First, he accessed the hotel's internal database. He pulled up staff reports, guest complaints, manager evaluations, anything connected to this location. And sure enough, Ashley's name appeared repeatedly. Front desk associate dismissed guest complaint without logging it. Guest reported discrimination during check-in process. Staff involved, Ashley Parker. Ashley refused service citing hotel policy, but provided no documentation. Multiple disputes with guests over system errors affecting specific reservations. This wasn't mere incompetence. This was deliberate malfeasance, and yet somehow she remained employed. Why? Marcus scrolled further and found his answer. The general manager, David Thompson, a spineless corporate climber who clearly prioritized avoiding conflict over maintaining standards. Translation. Ashley had been problematic for months, possibly years, but no one had the courage to terminate her employment, which meant Marcus would have to handle it personally. He returned to the lobby, taking his time, observing operations from different angles. Ashley was still at the front desk, probably believing she had weathered the storm. Wrong. Marcus walked directly past her and straight into the manager's office without knocking. David Thompson, a middle-aged man with the energy of someone whose life peaked in college, looked up from his desk and immediately paled. "Mr. Reynolds, what a surprise." Marcus closed the door behind him and leaned against it. "Cut the crap, David. We need to talk." David swallowed nervously. "Of course. What can I do for you?" "Do you know what's happening at your front desk?" David blinked rapidly. Well, I think everything is..." "Wrong answer." Marcus crossed his arms. "I just had my own reservation deleted by one of your employees." David's face drained of color. "What? Who would take a wild guess?" David opened and closed his mouth like a fish gasping for water. It was Ashley, wasn't it?" Ding, ding, ding. David winced. "Listen, Mr. Reynolds, I was going to handle it, I swear, but she's been..." Marcus held up his hand. "Stop talking, David. Just stop." Marcus took a deep breath, letting the silence hang heavily between them. "You've had complaints about her for months, maybe even years, and you did nothing." David looked like a man facing his own execution. "I thought maybe she just needed more training." "Training?" Marcus laughed incredulously. "This woman isn't some confused intern who forgot how to use the reservation system. She's deliberately undermining this hotel's reputation, and she's your problem." David looked as if he wanted to dissolve into the carpet. Marcus exhaled slowly and nodded. "Here's what's going to happen, David. You're going to walk out there right now, and you're going to fire her. In front of everyone." David's jaw dropped. "Right now?" "But, right. Now." David hesitated. Then, realizing he had no escape, nodded in surrender. 2 minutes later, the entire lobby watched as the hotel manager approached Ashley and delivered the news. She tried to argue, tried to cry, tried to claim it was all a misunderstanding. None of it mattered. She was finished. Marcus stood nearby, observing the entire scene with quiet satisfaction. As Ashley stormed toward the exit, throwing one final hateful glance over her shoulder, he simply smiled. Justice had been served. And the best part? She still had no idea who he really was. Marcus watched Ashley storm out of the hotel, her face twisted with anger and humiliation. It was satisfying, no doubt. But somehow, it wasn't enough. Perhaps because she remained ignorant of whose career she had just sabotaged, or perhaps because terminating one employee wouldn't address the deeper rot. He hadn't come merely for revenge. He'd come to rehabilitate his empire. David, still looking like he needed a stiff drink, turned to Marcus and wiped sweat from his forehead. "I handled it," he said weakly. Marcus smirked. "No, David. I handled it. You just stood there looking constipated." David forced a nervous laugh as if Marcus were joking. He wasn't. "You know," Marcus continued casually, "I could fire you too, for allowing this hotel to become a customer service disaster." David swallowed audibly. "I swear, Mr. Reynolds, I'll fix everything." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "That's cute, but you won't be fixing anything, David. I will." With that, Marcus walked away. By now the lobby had settled into an uncomfortable hush. Guests pretended not to stare. But this was better than any reality TV show. He headed directly back to the front desk and leaned over the counter, addressing the remaining staff. "Listen carefully. Things are about to change around here. Fast." A young man, perhaps mid-20s, nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. Do you work for corporate?" Marcus smiled. "Something like that." He picked up the hotel phone and dialed a number. When the line connected, he spoke with absolute authority. "This is Reynolds. Shut this hotel down for a complete audit. I want every guest compensated, every complaint reviewed, and every employee reevaluated. If they can't meet standards, they're gone. Effective immediately." The entire staff froze in disbelief. "Wait," one of the clerks stammered. "You're—" Marcus pocketed his phone and smiled. "Yeah, I'm that Marcus Reynolds." Silence fell. A woman gasped. The young man's eyes widened dramatically. David looked like he might faint. Marcus straightened his jacket, savoring the moment. "Now, if you'll excuse me," he said, heading toward the elevator. "I have a business to rehabilitate." The moment Marcus stepped into the elevator, he could feel the shockwave spreading through the lobby behind him, the weight of realization hitting everyone like a freight train. He could almost hear their thoughts. "Oh my God, that was the Marcus Reynolds." As the doors slid closed, he allowed himself a satisfied smile. Perfect. By the time he reached his suite, his phone was already buzzing. Corporate executives, board members, probably David begging for mercy. He ignored them all. Let them sweat. Let them wonder. Instead, he opened his laptop and accessed the system. First order of business. Cleaning house. Ashley. Blacklisted. She wasn't merely fired. She would never work in any Reynolds property again. David? Hanging by a thread. He'd get one final chance to prove he wasn't completely incompetent. Then Marcus examined the guest complaints. Some of these people had been disrespected, ignored, outright mistreated. That wasn't just bad business. It was personal. Marcus ensured every single affected guest received a full refund, complimentary future stays, and VIP status. Because that's how you build a hospitality empire. A knock at the door interrupted his work. David stood there, face ashen. "Mr. Reynolds, please. I had no idea." Marcus leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "That's precisely the problem, David. You had no idea what was happening in your own damn hotel." David swallowed nervously. "I can fix this, sir. I swear." Marcus tilted his head thoughtfully. "You fired Ashley?" "Yes," David nodded frantically. "Just like you asked." Marcus nodded. "Good. Now pack your things." David froze. "What?" "You heard me. You're done. You allowed this place to deteriorate under your watch. You should have addressed these issues before I had to step in." David's expression crumbled. "But Mr. Reynolds, please, Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. "Relax, Dave. I'm sure there's a budget motel somewhere that would love your management style." David staggered backward, speechless. Marcus shut the door in his face. No more second chances. Not in his empire. He poured himself a drink, settled into a chair by the window, and exhaled deeply. The hotel would recover. The business would emerge stronger. And the next time some front desk clerk thought about pulling a similar stunt, they'd think twice. Because now, everyone knew exactly who he was. Next time you're tempted to judge someone based on appearance, or treat them as less than, remember this story. The person you dismiss might be more important than you imagine. Maybe even the owner of the very ground you're standing on. But more importantly, every single person who walks through your door deserves respect, regardless of who they are or what they look like. True success isn't measured by the empire you build, but by how you treat people when nobody's watching, or when you think nobody important is watching. What would people discover if they tested your character with an undercover visit? Would they find integrity or exposure your biases? Because in life and business, your true character is revealed not by how you treat the powerful, but by how you treat those you believe have no power at all. Did you know? Just one like from you can give me the motivation to create more awesome videos. And by subscribing with the notification bell on, you'll never miss out on my next amazing content. Don't forget to leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about this video or suggest a topic you'd like to see next.